not other people's expectation. Having breast cancer wasn't my choice, but the decision to live healthy so that I could stand before you here today, that's choice. You can choose this very moment to change your life from every perspective.
Tracy Randolph was our speaker. She came back because so many people liked her first presentation. I was one of those people that joined her fitness group, and it made me a better leader.
I grew up in a community, but they had limiting beliefs on what a little Black girl could do. Everything that you do in this life is a choice. I choose to live healthy. I choose to change my mindset. I choose to be everything that I dreamed of because I choose faith and I choose me. Live healthy, be everything that you can be today. Choose yourself.
Hi everyone, Jeanette Ramos here, CEO and President of It Takes a Village Housing. It Takes a Village Housing is a nonprofit organization that houses women who have been affected by drug and alcohol use while having their children live in transitional housing. Services to include drug treatment, mentoring, counseling for the kids, parenting. We set them up with employment. We help them get everything that they need to get them out into the community. Go to our website, ittakesavillage1.org, and donate. Donate whatever your heart desires, and let's change families one at a time.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Whole Living Show. It is Wednesday morning, and as always, we have something great for you today. So first, I wanted to talk about that speaker video because I'm super excited. I'm honored and blessed and grateful to God that He gave me a voice and that I'm using it here on this platform and even on stages. So I wanted to thank Gabriel Klingman, who actually put that sizzle reel together for me. And I want to thank Elijah Pryor because that was at an event that he did back in June called Unleash the Boss. So I had the opportunity to speak about the power of choice there at that event. So I'm just super grateful, and I'm glad that the sizzle reel is out. So I'm excited about it and wanted to share it with everybody out there today. So thank you to those two beautiful human beings, and just grateful, everybody. So listen, you guys, before we get into our show today, because we have our special guest who came back, him and I had so much fun, so much light, so much energy on this show when he was here last time that we had to do a part two. Actually, when we first talked, we knew that we were going to do a part two from the very beginning, just because of the conversation that we had. He's just a wonderful person. So we had to have him come back to share. And today he's got something special for you. And if you guys looked at his social media or mine, you'll see what the topic is about. But we're going to get into that in a few. But everybody, I have to talk to you about not Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but Breast Health Awareness Month. I am a survivor of breast cancer. I am cancer-free now, almost 10 years. But I wanted to talk to you about breast health and about taking care of your body. As most of you know, I do a show at night called Fem Talk. Last night, we talked about only in America, what is in our food. Now, there's 3 things that I want to give you that you need to look out for. And if you want to know more, definitely reach out to me because there's so much more. But when you think about some of the additives and preservatives and all those things that are put into our food, some genetically modified foods, most of it is carcinogenic, which means it leads to cancer. Now, when you look at or you research these things, they always say possibly, and I'm putting up my air quotes because they always say possibly carcinogenic, right? Which means it leads to cancer, but they know that these things are compromising your body and they know that they can lead to cancer, but you'll always see it out there as possibly. But I want to highlight 3 for you that is found in mostly all foods, at least packaged foods for that matter. So as much as you can, try to stop eating processed foods. But there's 3 that I want to give you. So the first one is high fructose corn syrup. This is found in most packaged foods to sweeten the food. Well, listen, if you have heard the reports on sugar, this is one of those that is in most foods that you want to cut out. I was just watching Dr. Mark Hyman, who is focused on eating your medicine, which is, eating good food to help heal your body. And he was talking about cutting out high fructose corn syrup completely. And this high fructose corn syrup is not banned in any countries, but it's definitely a lot more restricted. And there's quotas in other countries that we don't have in the US. So you want to make sure that you're mindful of that. The other ones that I wanted to give you are the dyes that are put in food in the name of yellow number 5, yellow number 6, and red 40, highly carcinogenic. You want to look out for those in packaged foods when they want to give it some sweet color, some good looking color. They put these agents in there, but you want to make sure that you are reading your labels and not consuming those foods that have those additives on it. Okay, so I wanted to give you that one as well. And then I also wanted to talk to you about the growth hormones that you find in our dairy products and in our meats. The most common ones, they go by the letters of RBST and RBGH. They are growth hormones. They are artificial hormones. They are meant to stimulate milk production and lean muscle in meat, to grow the meat. So if you go to the store and you see that your, chicken, I'm going to use chicken as an example, the chicken leg is huge, that's because of those growth hormones. That's not normal. Chickens are not supposed to be that big. Their legs are not supposed to be that big. Their thighs are not supposed to be that big. So when you see that, you want to make sure that you are choosing different meat if you can. A lot of the companies now are saying that they don't put hormones in the meat. So I would say read the label there, check to see if they're not putting the hormones in the meat, but also pay attention to the size of the meat because that matters as well. So those are 3. There are so many more out there, but I just wanted to give you a few because they are highly carcinogenic. And this is Breast Health Awareness Month, and I want you to be mindful of what you are consuming so that you can protect your body from cancer as much as possible and mitigate the risk of breast cancer or any other type of cancer for that matter. All right, so everybody listen. I have got the amazing Sean Jones backstage. He is a spiritual healer, and we are talking today about past lives and karma. Okay, so this is going to get good. You don't want to go anywhere. You want to make sure that you are tuned in to speak with me and Sean. We want to hear your comments, ask questions. If you missed the last show, you want to make sure that you go back and watch it with Sean as well because so much came out. But today is about past lives and karma. So I'm going to play a quick commercial, and then we are going to bring Sean in the room. We're going to get this started. We do not want to delay too much further. All right, here we go, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt completely lost? Seeking purposeful direction that could and should propel your mission within your divine journey to that next level, but still it hasn't happened. Well, my name is Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the founder of P3, the Journey Series. People come to me because they're wounded. Many are scared, and even there are those who are bruised simply because they feel that they are increasingly, for whatever reason, losing their ability to dream. Now, this P3 program is not for a person who's just looking to start a business, no, but rather for those of you out there who have been on your journey and you've been navigating within your divine purpose, but you still desire to elevate to that level that you have not reached yet. If this is appealing, if this describes you, then I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear your story. So use the link below to get registered for your free seat at P3, the Journey Series. And let's get started. One story at a time. I'll see you inside. Click the link.
All right, everybody. And we are back. So if you saw that commercial with Dr. Lauren Michaels Harris, you can go to laurenmichaelsharris.com and click the link on his website to join his program. So without further ado, everybody, we are going to bring in Sean Jones. Give him a virtual round of applause. Hey there.
Casey, it's lovely
Hey.
to see you again. Yes.
It is great. It's great to have you back.
You were so powerful, man. Your intro, everything you have to share. Wow, man.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so much.
Yeah, very welcome.
Thank you. I love it. Like this, it just being able to share, with people, it fills my heart. So like this show and being on stage, and it just fills my heart. It makes me happy. So I just love it.
I felt it. It's powerful.
Thank you. And I have to give credit to Gabriel too, who put it together for me. So, the vision there. We have, I think somebody that you know very well. We have Eric Jamie Scott out there. Thank you so much for joining us and commenting. Great. Yes. He's saying HFCS is so bad for us. So he was commenting on when I was talking about what's in our food. All right. So we thank you, Eric. So I want to get into this conversation with you, but I want to ask you first, since we were talking about all of these chemicals in the food, and you're a spiritual healer, and I know that that a lot of spiritual healing also helps to heal physically your body, helps to heal from a lot of different diseases. I know on the last show, you talked a little bit about being able to help someone heal with energy. I know you mentioned one time when you were putting your hands over someone, and I know we both follow Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I've heard many stories of how he's helped people heal physically. But talk a little bit about, if you will, just what I mentioned, some of the things that we're putting in our body and how that affects us energetically, even, those chemicals.
Yeah, you really have to know, what you're putting in your body, because it's just more or less kind of like a cause and effect. And I, especially with meats and stuff, I usually most of the times, get organic and meat that I know that, was nurtured, and it could be expensive, but you have to think about, your life and how you want to feel and what it does to your body. Because again, it's all cause and effect. If you're going to put bad things or things that have chemicals and stuff, it's going to affect you sometime. Maybe short term you're not going to feel it, but long term, as you know, it gives people cancers and other detrimental diseases. And so it's so important to purify the body, to really look at the ingredients and see. It's so important, I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And when you think about, I just want to mention the organic part of that too, for people to pay attention to what's organic in the store, just to know that it's held under a different standard. The farming part of it is held under a different standard. It doesn't mean though that it won't be genetically modified. So I want to just put that point out there as well. But it is going to be better than something that is not organic, because of the standards on pesticides and how it's grown and the facilities that it's in. So just wanted to put that out there as well to people. But just be mindful of what you're putting in your body. It affects every part of our lives, but both go ahead.
Also, another thing, because it came up, Spirit, is like also, we love to, pray and give thanks for our food, but even energetically, it's not just doing energy on ourselves or doing energy on a client or a friend. Use your hands, right, to use God's light to pray over your food. And if there are any chemicals or anything that are not good for you, to be able to release that energetically and to heal the food that you eat, that you ingest into your body. So that's also very helpful before you eat.
Thank you so much for saying that. So we have a beautiful friend in common, which is Dominique Rivera, which is how we met, right? Yes. And I was talking to her one day about, my need to release chicken, my feeling of my need to release chicken. And she said, just think about it this way. She said the same thing you did about praying over the food, but then she said, thank the chicken for sacrificing its life for you to live. I started to appreciate it in such a different way. When I think about it that way and pray in that way, I just think about it completely different now. So now I'm like just grateful for what it's giving me, the nourishment that it gives me.
And I have to say, I was working in Colombia on a retreat, and I was working with the shaman. And those of you who don't know, I had done plant medicine, which is called ayahuasca, for a deeper healing. And I have to say, after I was done, I could not, and I do eat meat. I could not eat meat for almost a year. Wow. I literally energetically had felt the animal in my body, and my body rejected it every time for a while. I literally had to slowly have a little bit at a time, because I had literally purified my body, my mind, my spirit, and it's all energy. So it just tells you the reaction that you can have once you truly purify and put good things. You can't really go back like that.
Yeah. I have a friend who, she's vegan, but she became a vegan for that reason, right? Because she said that she felt just pain when she thought about, what the animals go through here in order for us to have food. So that was her reasoning for it, and she has stuck with it. And she grew up in Texas, right? So everything was beef, right? She does not, and has since moved back to Texas as well, but definitely just doesn't do it for that reason.
Yeah, and it makes sense, because we're not just connected to each other as humans. We're connected to the animals, the earth. It's all one. So that vibration that we're eating, if it went through trauma, we're gonna feel certain things in our body around that. So that's mindfulness.
That is a great segue a little bit into your topic, right? Because you have past lives that we're talking about, but you talk about the trauma of the animal and how that transfers onto, the person consuming that animal. So talk a little bit about that process, that transference of past trauma, and bring that into, the topic of past lives.
So, being that after my awakening, which I had talked about briefly on the first show, through a lot of pain and trials and tribulations, I was just wondering, I was like, man, this life is really tough. And I'm like, I wonder what this is really all about. And I've heard before from studying some Buddhism that, we do reincarnate. So I had an experience of that for myself. I wasn't just going to believe it from anyone or if it was in a book. So through my spiritual journey, I had moved to Miami at the time, doing the same work, doing Reiki healing, massage, teaching Qigong, energy work. And I had gone to a Buddhist temple, studying Buddhism for a while. And then they had asked me to teach Qigong. So I started teaching for months at a time. And I had this nagging shoulder injury for the longest time. I had surgeries, I had healers work on it, and I had very little to no relief from any of these things that I had tried to heal myself, including myself. It's quite frustrating. So one of the Buddhist nuns that was there had knew about my shoulder, and she's like, "Would you like some energy work?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'm open." And she said, "Well, around your shoulder, honestly, I really think it's due to some of your past life, past incarnations, why this is happening to you. But for every pain and struggle you have, there is a lesson, and through your lesson that you can be able to teach through this." So I said, okay, so I went up to the room and she had everything set up. And the interesting thing was before I left, one of my mentors was telling me about some lives that I was in, previous lives. So these two people don't even know each other. Mm-hmm. And so she sits on the chair and starts meditating. And she said, the very 3 lives, she said, you were on the cross as a disciple of Christ. You were in a cult, and the third one was a Buddha.
Mm.
Of course, in my
Doesn't it sound like they're all wrestling too, right?
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah.
So different. So I was like, okay, sure, I'm open. So I lay down, and she tells me, just softly close your eyes. I'm not going to touch you. And I literally would have to say within 5 minutes, my legs crossed and my arms went out, and I screamed like Father, as if I was on the cross.
Surrender.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
super intense. I even was coughing and yeah, it was very intense. Blood was even coming out. It was I was feeling the phantom pain through this experience.
Wow.
I was speaking Hebrew and Aramaic, which, I had never even, taken those languages. And I didn't know it was until we actually recorded the sessions within our second session working together. So that it was starting to come clear why some of the shoulder injuries, and why. So
So
like,
before you go on, just
oh,
talk about a little bit about your reaction when you heard the experience that you had just gone through.
I mean, I felt it wasn't even the pain from my shoulder, I was feeling the pain of humanity.
Mm,
You know,
wow.
I was feeling just this deep sadness, for Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. I felt like it's like I had all this love, but really I felt like hopeless and helpless in that time, not
Yeah.
knowing, because I'm just trying to follow Christ in that way. you
Yeah.
know so
Yeah.
I didn't care, because I was doing it for love.
Mm,
I was doing it to get the message out and to follow the way. So
wow.
even though it was quite intense, I felt empowering that I was having this experience and connection to Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. So Eric's asking, how do you even find mentors like the ones you spoke about?
Oh, how do you find? I think that's all part of the spiritual journey. Like, if you ask, it will given. If you knock, the door open.
Mm,
Anyone who seeks a higher path, just ask.
yeah.
And if you know me, then I can help guide you that way. There's a
Yeah.
lot of experiences that I've had through past lives that helps a lot of people through understanding their trauma.
Mhm.
Like, why did all this stuff happen to me, or why do I have this like bad luck?
Mhm.
But they
Mhm.
don't understand their karma. They don't understand the type of things that have happened to them in previous lives, which had made more of a challenging in their present life.
Yeah. So talk about some examples of that in your own life or somebody else that you've experienced about, maybe something that's going on present day that had a lot to do with what's happened in their past life.
Well, I would say first, really quick, relationships. We all have dated someone where we felt like that soul connection, but
Mhm.
it doesn't really necessarily mean that that's our life partner. I mean, you're just so strongly bonded from the start. And a lot of times is because you had previous lives that you needed to work out through the relationships,
Mhm.
under, like, whether you were the one who wasn't as committed as much because the last life you weren't a nice person. So
Mhm.
in the life that you are now, you have to experience that duality, because you were this abusive, not nice person. Now you have to feel kind of what you went through, but it's not a punishment. People think, you have to understand what karma. This is like, oh, it's karma, it's going to come back. No, karma means action.
Mm. So talk about that. How do you
Yeah.
put that into action? How do you First of all, wait, I'm gonna go back. Forget the action for 1 minute. We're gonna go back to that. How do you gain a level of understanding first? Because you can't put something into action that you don't even understand.
Right. Which I understand. Which I understand. I think when you're seeking, you have to be open. Let's be honest. You have to be open to explore beyond books, beyond what people tell you, and go within. You have to experience yourself. Just like I had an open heart to it, but because I experienced it, things started unfolding more. Right.
Mhm.
So the dots were connecting in what I was going through, and it was how I held what I was going through so I could learn.
Mm.
So these cause and effect or karma, or they're just all learning lessons, right? To be able to heal our mind and come back home, right? Come
Mm.
back to God,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
From the inner space, right? And so you can come from the divine light versus what you've what you think in your mind or what you heard from other people, whether it's your parents, teachers, mentors. It's like you have to experience life within yourself from that space.
Yeah. Oh, so I got another question in regard to that. So when you think about that too, how do you recognize the divine's
Mhm.
voice, so to speak? And I'm going to just use it in voice context, right? But it may not be might not be him speaking to you literally, right? Most of the times we don't get it that way. But how do you recognize his voice?
Keep quiet.
Mm,
You
mhm,
know, people, there's no easy way, and how you know is honestly, for me and my personal, everyone has their way, is
mhm,
to spend longer, deeper times within your heart, within the
mhm,
silence of the self.
mhm.
That's how you know truth. It's like getting away from the material, getting away from your relationships, your kids, everything, right? And putting spirit first, putting God first. And writing, like writing to God. You can sit and write your questions to God and sit in silence. And then once you hear that still small voice, I mean, we have to trust that that's it, because God speaks to all of us.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. That's why meditation is so important. Just like, working out, you put time into working out, you put time in your relationships, you put time to work, your kids. Where's time for God? Where's time
Yeah.
for your inner silence, so that you know that you're on the path, not
Yeah.
what I want. That's a whole nother, I want, and how you're trying to control life. What is your higher path really have for you? But you don't really know, because you're not silent enough to really hear spirit's voice.
That's so good. Okay, so there's a quote that I love, and I think I probably said this on the last show, but it's make time for the quiet moments as God whispers and the world is loud. So you just put me in the mind of that. But when you just said you have to listen and remain quiet, and maybe you scribe to God too, but when you started, because I know, like, I'm just going to say this transparently, right? Like, I know that I get inside there too, even when I'm sitting quiet, sometimes the I want comes out, right?
Hmm.
And I have to really like take myself back and like remove myself from it and ask God, your will be done, not my own, So I just wanted to like make that point again for people to really hear that part of it, because a lot of times we get into the what we want, and we're not listening to God's will. So talk even about that and how you kind of hone in on his will versus your own.
Well, I take out the I.
Mm,
So who's I?
mm, right,
Who's the one saying I want?
right.
And a lot of time, I want comes from the ego.
Yeah.
Through materialism, through sensory, wanting certain things to be a certain way.
Mhm.
And that's why, in understanding the difference between, the mind, the energy being up here, versus deeping into your breath, into your heart, and allowing the energy to come from that divine space.
Yeah. Oh, that's
That's
so good.
all in itself, to be mindful, not just in meditation, just sitting. You can talk to your guides and angels just with your eyes open, walking down the street,
Mm-hmm.
practicing stillness, practicing allowing, practicing surrender, deep surrender.
Yeah. And that's it right there, too. You said before, be open, right? And that's what being open is, surrendering to God. So I love this question from Eric. He's saying, does everyone definitely have past lives, or are some people first lifers? That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are new souls that come in, but
Mhm.
most times they're either, are kind of kindergarten, or some people are here that are more advanced, that are here to show the way. and
Mhm.
and honestly, not everybody's supposed to wake up. Let's get it straight. you know Not everybody wants to wake up. There's some people who are just meant to be in the matrix, and that's the kind of the lessons that we can learn. We could judge a homeless person, right, that, oh, they have a hard life, or this or that. Maybe it's some of their karma, or maybe it's the duality, to have more compassion for those that don't have.
And that might be part of their awakening, too.
Exactly.
Right. And I remember this movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but there was a movie where oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the actress. At any rate, she owned this diner,
Hmm.
and she used to always feed this homeless man, right? and her daughter, one of her daughters she was so disgusted by it. Like, why is he in here? She always fed this man. Lo and behold, at the end of this movie, right, he ended up being this, like ex Wall Street guy. He was giving the woman from the diner investment advice, and she ended up with all of this money. Like, he was the person that was awake. You know what I
Wow.
mean? But her daughter looked at him just as some homeless man, but he was this brilliant guy. You know what I mean? But he just, because his life changed, he wasn't so into the money part of it. He knew how to make money, and he helped her do so. And she ended up leaving him like so much money, but it was just, he was awakened, right? And everybody else around, except for him and this woman, this older woman, everybody else wasn't, right? So they just looked at him as some homeless guy. So you just made me think about that movie, and I can't think of the name of that movie to save my life. But
message, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's that's what you can't really never judge a book by its cover, because I think I said before, we're all students and teachers at the same moment. In our listening, right, in teaching, and then also observing and listening. We're learning all the time,
and you talked earlier about listening to God, but then you also said talking to your angels, and I wanted to point that part out too, because I think sometimes that piece gets missed, right? And angels are around us all the time, and you can call for them as well, because they're here to help us through the things that we're going through. Yeah.
And sometimes people think like it's just God, like God just made it's just this one particular thing. It's like not even describable. Like he has his helpers, they're there. Some people have 2, 3, 4, angels and guides, and that's such, like, we call the unseen like something miraculous or something special, but really the unseen is very normal. But because our minds are all about the material and being in this matrix and rat run and outside ourselves, we're never in the inner world. We're never beyond the mind.
Yeah.
So I try to get people to direct them more have a more inward life, start inwardly and then go outward.
Yeah. I can remember when I started working with Dominique, and some of the things that I noticed, like I always felt different. And I think we had talked about this very early on. I always felt different. I always had like a level of awareness that I knew people around me did not get. I used to coin myself. I don't say that anymore, just because I watch my words, but I used to coin myself as the ugly duckling in my family, right? Because I just knew that when I was younger, I just knew that I was different. I just knew that there was more to it. And my grandmother used to always say to me that she saw a horse with white horses and a white chariot when I was born. And she's very spiritually gifted, but I always knew that I was more aware. But when I started working with Dominique, I saw things that people just, it seems unbelievable, right? And it was almost like, now the reverse of the Matrix, it was more like the Matrix, the movie type of thing,
right?
Because I started to see even different dimensions, fully awake.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So, and people just don't get that. They don't get that. But so talk a little bit more about the things that are around us that are not tangible, that we don't see, but that we need to be mindful of.
I think there's different parts in people's lives where they wake up to this, that they don't think it's a singular God. And finally, when they open their minds a little bit, it's an exploration. It's like, how do you know it? It's be like, well, how do you know it's not God, or it's the devil, or it's the ego, or whatever it is? How would you know? Well, you know how you feel.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you call your angels? I feel protected. I feel, especially when I do it in the morning, I feel like I'm starting my day with that divine guidance and protection. And you'll have little, like, I know a lot of people that on their spiritual journey, they'll start to see triple, either see 111 or 1111. These are all little signs that the divine and the angels put out there for you. Whether it's the clock, it's a license plate, it's a billboard, these are all signs from our guides and angels.
Yeah. Yeah.
that are,
Oh,
that
that's
are with us.
yeah, and that's so good to pay attention to the signs, and then look up the numbers to see what they mean because they, when you just mentioned the 111 or the 222 or whatever it is, the numbers have meaning, and you'll see how applicable it is to your life too when you start to look up the numbers that you're seeing. So to pay attention to that. So I want to just talk a little bit more about go into those past lives a little bit more too, and talk about just kind of cause and effect.
Okay, so that explaining the one with the being on the cross, which made a lot of sense with my shoulder, and I feel like being ripped out. But it, as in karma wise,
Mhm.
it didn't really come to me until I had actually was with another mentor. I was at a restaurant, and this was live. Wasn't even at on the table receiving energy work or anything. So I told that the story of poor me, what happened to me with my abuse and this and that,
Mhm.
drugs, alcohol, that stuff, and big one was relationships. And he's like, oh, what you did to people in your past life as a warrior. I said, you killed and raped and hurt kids and all this other stuff. And it was weird. It was like all of a sudden he was talking to me, and then I closed my eyes, and then all of a sudden I was there, like in real time as a warrior, observing, watching people getting slaughtered and killed, and hearing them scream and all this other stuff. And a soldier or a warrior came at me, and I went to cut his head off, right? And I literally came out of it and went to throw the table in the restaurant while
Wow.
and he jumped over to hold the table down. I felt all the cortisol levels, the adrenaline, all like I was dry. It was so intense. And it's sat back down and he said, see, I said, do you understand now?
Wow. Now, this was a person that you knew well?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, at that time I had just kind of met, but he was, a mentor. So that was in the beginning of kind of telling like what had happened to me as a child and a young adult.
Mm-hmm.
So, I could have, if I wouldn't have had this past life experience and other ones as well around the warrior energy,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't relate to what I would be blaming my parents. I would be blaming, the person who molested me. I would be blaming all these people. And then it's like, hey, not to recognize and know that these things did happen, but there's a deeper lesson because I was able to heal deeper, more within myself, and let go of the victim mentality, let go of it was the other fault. Well, I did the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
I did the same thing and worse.
yeah.
Worse. But through as I evolved, I knew that I chose. I was a priest, a shaman. I decided to change my ways to follow more of the spiritual path and follow God in a deeper path. Which through many lifetimes, it started to changing as my vibration started to shift into the light.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Myself and what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does one release that warrior?
That's I'm even still. It's the warriors in everybody. I think we're all warriors. We're all warriors at what time, and have like I said, we both have masculine and feminine, but there's the healthy masculine, and then there's the unhealthy masculine, toxic masculine. And so I was able to see some of my behaviors as I woke up. I understood what I was doing to myself and what I was doing to others. So it's taking more accountability with the things that I had gone through my past, and then things in recent relationships that I take full responsibility now. Not even for what people have done, but like what I do in my own mind, because it all starts in the mind.
Yeah.
Not just what you do, like to talk about karma, because this is around karma. Let's get back to karma means action. So it's a thing in our mind, right? It's like you have you have a thought that comes in your head, you have a choice to act on it, right? So what you put out, it's like a boomerang, it comes back. So if you put out hate, you feel hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you put out good, you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cause and effect that happens. And it's not always the way that people think, oh, because you had a shitty thing happen to you, that is, you know, oh, it's going to happen to them. It never works out that way because you don't know what your karma is. Yeah. Maybe these things were supposed to happen for you to look deeper within yourself around the things that you've done in your past.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And to be like conscious of, you know, okay, I've had this past life, you know, one that you can remember or one that's deeper rooted, right? Because, you know, you being a warrior was deeper rooted than, you know, ones that you can remember. But no matter where they sit in your timeline, to be conscious of the person that you are today, to be able to take action and be accountable for, you know, everything that you have been before. And that's a really tough thing to do. So talk about how to stay conscious, you know, when you know that there are these things that you've wrestled with. And some people may not even know why they wrestled so much, right? But
right.
Wrestling.
Well, a lot of people, you have to understand, because I'm in the field, I feel like Spirit gave me these lessons and I have a higher understanding of it. But a lot of people don't remember their past lives or even go there because it's a lot. Like, you already have a lot what's going on now in your life. To bring everything up in the past, it's more or less an acknowledgement of what has happened in the past, that you use it like as a measure, as a lesson that you've gone through to heal mind and body. So it goes back as a gift. It's nor bad or nor good. If anything, I think it's all good, because you learn from these lessons and you have a higher awareness and you get out of the whole victim mentality.
Yeah.
You're fully 100%, you know, responsible. And around even being what Spirit told me even just now is that even the evil mind in his own demise can hear a voice of an angel.
Oh, say that again. That's good.
Even an evil mind in his own demise can hear a voice of an angel.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And okay, so here's where hope, right? That's where the hope comes in, right? Because there is light in everybody, right?
Like, okay, it doesn't matter how dark you might feel or judge yourself to be or judge others to be, everybody is of the light.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say no, you finish your thought first, because this is going back a little bit.
I mean, everyone's reacting from their trauma, their conditioning, their memory. So don't make it about you when people act a certain way. If you can really come from your heart and have compassion, it's not them. People, out of people's ignorance and hate and what they've been through, they're coming from that hurt little boy or little girl. So when you see people act up or whatever, don't personalize it, right? Go a little bit deeper. Why is someone angry? Where is it coming from? And that gives you a little bit of space between the person that you perceive that is attacking you. You know, perceive that there's something wrong with this person. Look a little deeper from the heart space.
That's good. That's good stuff. So then how do you, because you're saying like, don't personalize it, right? So how do you kind of, let's say, come together or come to an understanding or, you know, continue life, right? Talk a little bit about that.
I mean, the first thing to do is hard for most people is just accept it. It's real simple. First, you know, because your mind, you go, like, I'm not going to accept this. So, well, who is saying that you can't accept it? Who's the voice in your head that's saying that? Does that sound like spirit? Does that sound like God? Or does that sound like your lower mind? Does it sound like your ego?
Yeah.
So that's like questioning yourself in your own not reactive or non-reactive, because you'll know when you're non-reactive, you're at peace. If you react, you become just like them. You become the same. The action of them, you meet the action. Light meets light, and you both become dark.
Yeah. Oh, I just recently had that experience, right? And talking about like being consciously aware, right? But you're human, right?
Mhm.
And had that experience where the dark met the dark.
Mhm.
And not that that wasn't the place that I wanted to go with it. It was a release, but at the same time, you know, it came not together, right? In the way that it was supposed to. And that's
Yeah.
never the person that I desire to be, So here I am, I'm being transparent, everybody. It's
Yeah.
never the person that I desire to be, but I'm human. And I lost it. I went to the darkness and had a reaction that didn't help matters, right? Not for me or the other person. But it just was what it was. So talk even about that when dark meets dark, how
Mhm.
to kind of bring that back to light, first internally and then
Mhm.
outwardly.
Well, first we have to just be conscious every day and every moment, just to be more self-aware. Is that where's my mind and how do I feel,
Mm,
right? And then be more self-aware of coming back. It all goes back to the heart. We have
mm,
to take control of our own mind because nothing in our mind is real.
mm,
They're all just limitless projections and ideas and judgments from our ego.
mm,
And so we have to come back to that space and feeling that we don't have to really say anything.
mhm,
Allow someone to be heard. You don't have to agree,
mm.
and you don't even have to respond.
Yeah.
In the quiet space of the self of your heart, right? It's like you're kind of preparing yourself to come from love
Mm,
versus feeling like most people, they hear what they hear and they're already in their head ready to react and say something. So
yeah.
be mindful just to just be and allowing someone to just express how they feel and control your own feelings and not
Mm,
even control it, just allow things to kind of flow because it's not always even thoughts. We can feel the negativity, and so we kind of unconsciously judge this energy
yeah.
versus feeling love within ourselves because it's like the person is basically throwing up on you and you have a choice to either let it get on you and believe it on some level,
Yeah.
right? Or just release it and let it go by, not care. Why do we suffer? Because we care.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah, and when you think about it from that perspective, like how much do you allow yourself to absorb versus, I'm going to say, reflect?
Right. No,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And usually that happens when you're done the conversation. It's like that residual energy. You're
Mm,
like, ugh, like
mm,
that didn't feel good because you both matched in the darkness,
yeah.
right? And so even when someone you're in a space, you can call your angels and guides
Mm,
and guides, have
mhm,
you speak for me, spirit, have you calm my mind, calm my
mm,
body, like bring
mhm.
your awareness inwardly versus like coming from your headspace. And
Yeah.
that will really calm and neutralize everything out to stay
Yeah.
neutral, right?
And thank
Stay.
you. Yeah, thank you for that reminder too, because in that space,
Mhm.
I didn't. I did later, right? But in that space and in that time period and what I was feeling, I didn't call for them. And I should have.
Mhm.
I should
Yeah,
have. So thank you for that reminder because that's not what I did. I did that later on after after the
right.
adrenaline wore down, right? But in that moment, it would be so key to call on, God and the angels
Mhm.
right then. Yeah.
And to go deeper in that, because again, that wasn't really a traumatic experience, but a lot of times we take on, oh, why did I do that? I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And
Hmm.
we have to go when we're done those conversations, whether if it's at that moment or later in the day or when we get home, is that we have to move back into that, and to release it.
Yeah.
We have to, whether it's writing to the Holy Spirit or doing some meditation, just coming to clear your energy, to be at peace with what is. We're
Yeah.
human. Like
Yeah.
we can't be too hard on ourselves. Like it's still a good thing. You've evolved since that moment because you caught yourself,
Hmm.
and who cares if you do it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's okay. I have to remember that. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you're human experience.
Yeah, yeah. That here's I just want to go back to this. Eric says, I never know what to do when I encounter a person who personalizes every idea as an attack against them and cannot just hear some new ideas and grow. Yeah.
I agree. Well, I usually say to people that inside myself, it's not my problem.
Yeah. 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 And in those instances, right, you have to pray for them, right?
Yeah.
That they yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really again it's surrendering. Yeah, it's like it's not the person. Like you're not the person. You can't personalize where the other person's It's like two people personalizing, and that's why it's so important not to really don't care about what others think and feel. You can only care about yourself because
Mm.
as you change, only someone else will change naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't make someone change or be so irritated with people's responses because they don't you feel like you're coming to a good space and then you're like, well, why aren't you? Well, who's saying why aren't you? That's the mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
And
need to-
yeah, and that's the part to think about, right? To always do your best, right? Because it doesn't know, like you said, we're human, but always do your best to come from that heart space.
Mhm.
And how they receive it or perceive it or how they respond to it, that's not your problem. That part is not your problem.
So here's a good a message that I heard. There are two things to remember.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we own is our actions, right? And the only thing we can do is die. Everything else is a choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why I spoke about that at that event, exercising the power of choice. It is powerful, and we all have a choice that we can make when it comes to how we choose to live this life and deal with people and everything else in it, right? Man, this has been so good, Eric. Give us some last, quick tips that you want to give everybody in regards to the topic today.
I think one of the important thing, even in that saying that I just say, is that every day die to yourself.
Yeah. Ooh.
Die to your mind, die to your memory. Memories can be used as a learning curve in lessons, but just let it go. Whether it's even positive, whether it was a negative, whatever, be in the now. There's only this moment. So when we die, we can have new growth from a higher mind versus going back in the past that's already gone. And so we're making a choice to live in the now, to die in the now, and there be born.
Oof.
Oof.
And boom, you just make me want to turn the table. Every day, die to yourself.
Yep.
I mean, bam, right there. Thank you.
Die
I'm gonna write that on my board today. And listen, I'm the reset coach, right? And I say every day is an opportunity to reset. But this right here, this from the spiritual perspective, like every day die to yourself. Now I've heard sermons on this, but you just put this in my head. I'm putting it on my board because I need to be mindful of that every day. Every day die to yourself. Every day.
Your feelings, your thoughts, even your idea of who you think you are.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so good. Yes. Yes.
And that's where your prayer life and your connection to the divine will become more clear, because you're not going to have all these filters and what you think and how things are supposed to go. You just die inside.
Yeah. Eric's saying, what's dude's name? His name is Sean Jones. Eric, make sure that you connect with him on social media, because this is who he is. If you were looking, Eric, to figure out how you get those mentors, you got one right here in Sean. So reach out to him on Facebook. He is Sean Jones. It's SeanJones. And I'll put that up here very quickly before we end the show so that you can make sure that you connect with Sean on social media. He's amazing. I mean, this is only a little bit of who he is. I'm going to send you, Eric, the last show, so you can also watch Sean on the last show, and then make sure you connect with him. Everybody, this has been the Whole Living Show with the amazing Sean Jones. Sean, listen, you could come back every month. Like, you need to be an expert on here every month. We're going to talk about that a little bit. I really appreciate you and everything that you do and who you are. You are just a light, and so deep and so powerful in just what you're saying, but yet so simple. And yes. I just really appreciate you. So everybody out there, we love you. Eric, Jamie, Scott, make sure that you connect with Sean. And I'm going to send you, like I said, the other show. But thank you, everybody. And make sure that you tune in next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. We're going to have Jeanette Ramos. And you saw that commercial earlier today. It Takes a Village. And she's going to be talking about how she is helping women and children rebuild their lives after some type of substance abuse or physical abuse. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you all. Sean, I appreciate you. Take care.
Thanks so much. Take care.